Good morning, everyone. Let's begin the day by giving charity. Here is charity giving. Wonderful. Give to others, and Hashem will give to you. Charity is what makes the world goes around. That's what's going to bring the Moshiach. Now, we're finishing the speech that the Rebbe gave in the beginning of 1992. And it's talking about Mashiach, like all the other things that really Judaism is all talking about, is everything is really Mashiach. That's all our prayers, the Mashiach, all the laws, in order to bring Mashiach. Mashiach is going to be a person just like Moses, and Moses took the Jews out of Egypt and got the Torah. If it wasn't for Moses, we wouldn't have the Torah. We wouldn't have the Torah. We wouldn't have gotten out of Egypt. We wouldn't have stayed out of Egypt. We would have gone back to Egypt. It's the same thing. There has to be one person that drives the Jewish people crazy and makes them go out of their personal Egypts and receives the Torah and does the Torah and eventually brings them to the land of Israel. Unlike Moses that didn't go into the land of Israel, Mashiach will go into the land of Israel and he'll bring all the Jews into the land of Israel. Moses didn't take all the Jews out of Egypt. He didn't take all the Jews out of Egypt. Moshiach will take the Jews out of Egypt. So the Rebbe said, what's this whole secret of going out of Egypt and going out of exile and etc.? So what is exile again? What is exile? Like similar to going out of Egypt. It was a state of, what do you call it? Identity. A state of identity. Who are we? Who are the Jewish people? What's really going on? So when the Jews were in Egypt, they had no question what their identity was. They were slaves. They were slaves. They were slaves in Egypt. You woke up in the morning, you were a slave. You went to sleep at night, you were a slave. In the middle of the day, you were a slave. So there was no problems with, who am I? What am I? What is my purpose in the world? What am I doing here? It was obvious to the Jews. They were slaves. That's what they were in Egypt. They were all slaves. But they were, in addition to being slaves, they were also wrong, because true, they're slaves. Being slaves is a good thing, because if you're a slave, you have a purpose in life. You have a job in life. You have a responsibility. But your main responsibility, if you're a slave, is to yourself. You just want to keep yourself, in existence and not get beaten too much and just do whatever job your master tells you to do. So you're slaves. When they got out of Egypt, they were also slaves, but they were slaves to God. And God is dynamic. God is the creator of the world. And God is always telling you to do good things. Pharaoh wanted them to fortify and to build up Egypt, which Egypt was a very evil country. It was debauched, licentious, and cruel. And God is good. I mean, He creates everybody. He creates everyone, and He has He wants there to be harmony in the world, the beauty in the world, etc. And not only that, it's something that we all want inside of ourselves. Inside of ourselves, essentially, every human being wants to be a slave, a servant to the creator of the universe. Every human being wants to do what's right. That's what's called your conscience. Conscience tells you to be honest. Conscience tells you to be kind. Conscience, people that have a proper conscience, a properly functioning conscience, or more exactly, they listen to their conscience. Okay, so when the Jews got out, so this week's Torah portion, so that's what the redemption is. The redemption is that you become a servant of the creator of the universe. You start to listen to your inner desire for truth, your inner desire for reality, kindness, love. You listen to it, and that brings you to be connected to the creator of the universe. And Moses did the same thing. He took the Jews out of Egypt and he gave them the Torah. When he gave them the Torah, so then they had a whole new set of responsibilities, what God wants. Well, Mashiach is going to do the same thing. He's going to heap more responsibilities on us. Not anything more physical, but more, how do you want to call it, the human. We'll sink all of our humanity into connecting to the creator of the universe and doing the commandments and doing everything will be done with, like people are excited about money now, people will be excited about God when Mashiach comes. That's what Mashiach is going to do. Make everybody interested in true things. So the Rebbe says, where do we see this? This is a really weird thing we're talking about. We're going out of our of ourselves. You know why? That's what God did. He made the world in such a way that he wanted to be a world, and he wanted the world to be constraining, and he wanted us to go out of those constraints, go out of this, define, go out, and he wants us to transform those constraints. He wants us to transform the world, show how good the world is. So the Rebbe said that's the whole idea of the Jewish people going into exile. We're not into exile in order to go out. We're into exile in order to transform the exile. Transform the exile. Once I heard a joke that said that who is it, Sigmund Freud or something? He was the first doctor in the world. There's a joke, another joke, a joke before the joke. Was a psychiatrist? A psychiatrist is a doctor that can't stand the sight of blood. It doesn't cut anybody. Another joke was, I don't know if you think this is funny, but I did. Sigmund Freud was the first doctor to say to his patient, "Get out of here, you're crazy. You're crazy." What's it a joke about? Because he wanted crazy people. That's what he was dealing with, was crazy people. He was dealing with sick people. That was his business, to deal with sick people. Well, the Jewish people is dealing with a sick world. And so God put us into a sick world in order to heal the world. So that's what it says. The Jewish people went into Egypt. That going into Egypt was really going out. Because the whole purpose of going into Egypt was eventually, ideally, with Moshiach, which is going to be 3,000 whatever years later, 3,300 years later, is going to be to transform the world. That's the. And the Rebbe said that's what we get a hint of this in the Mishnayos of Brachos, of the Mishnayos of Brachot, the first chapter, the last Mishnah in the first chapter. It says that Rebbe the Ben Zoma said that you should mention going out of Egypt, or you should go out of Egypt in the nighttime. And the rabbi said, even in the days of the Mashiach. Kol yamei chayecha lahavi liyamos Mashiach. That's what it says in the Torah. Okay, what I'm saying is take it out of context, but that's the point. That what it says in the Torah, you're supposed to remember going out of Egypt. Kol yamei chayecha, all of the days of your life. This is to bring to the days of the Mashiach. And the Rebbe explained, what is this? Who said this? This is Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, on the day that he became the Nasi, the king of Israel, so to speak. He became the head of the Sanhedrin. And Elazar means El, Hashem, Ezer helps. Azar, Yah means that another word for God helps. So he was the help of God, the son of the help of God. In other words, you decide to do something good, God will help you. God will help you, and he'll help you, and he'll help you over and over. He'll help you to do what? He'll help you to call Yomei Chayecha, that all of the days of your life you will bring Havil Yamot Mashiach, to bring to the days of the Mashiach. Beginning even in the nighttime, even in the essence of exile. And that's the whole thing of the Jews going into Egypt. I'm giving a summary of what we learned. Okay. Alpis, according to this, now we can understand the connection between Parshat Shmot, this week's Torah reading, and Chav Tevet, the 20th day of this month of Tevet, which that's going to be next week. Which day? Monday. Let's have a look over here. 1 second. 1 minute. That will be next week. 1 second. Here we go. We got it. Next week, Sunday night. Sunday night. What's going to be next week, Sunday night? What is the 20th day of Tevet? It's the day that the Maimonides passed away. The Rambam passed away. I don't know. It was somewhere around 800 years ago, a little bit more. Shechal Olam, that it always comes b'smichas, it always comes in or right next to this Torah reading of Shmot, going out of Egypt, going into Egypt, going out of Egypt. Ubashanadu, this year it falls on Erev Shabbat Parshat Shmot. This year, when the Rebbe was speaking, this was 1992, it fell on Friday, like now. But by us it doesn't fall on Friday. By us it falls on Monday, so Sunday night. Ubafrat, and especially according to Rambam, Maimonides. What is Rambam? Rabbi Moses ben Maimon. Rabbi Rambam. Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon. Ram is Rabbi Moshe. Bam is Ben Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon. That was his name. Especially according to what it's known that it fell on Shabbat, right? The Erev Shabbat. By the Rebbe, it was Friday, and it was Friday. It was by the Rebbe when he was speaking, it was Shabbat. The day before, it was the Maimonides' day of passing away. It always falls on the 20th day of Tevis, and it's always on or right next to the Shmot. This year, like I said, it's going to be after. It's going to be next to Sunday, but it's right near the Shmot. What's the whole thing of Shmot? Going into Egypt. The Rambam Maimonides spent most of his life in Egypt. He wrote all of his works in Egypt. He was the chief, the doctor to the Sultan of Egypt. You can imagine the responsibility that he had. How he wrote this book over there, it's impossible to understand. It's a 14-volume book of all the laws of the Torah, which means he had to know the whole entire Torah, all the Talmud. And back then, that was like 800 years ago, 900 years ago. It was very difficult to get a hold of Talmuds. You can imagine the Jews were evicted from all many places, all sorts of places, and they carried portions of the Talmud with them. They couldn't carry the whole Talmud, one person. So it had to be a lot of people carry the Talmud with them. Especially according to what it's known, that the eating of Shabbat comes by means of working before Shabbat, Friday. The Rebbe is saying the Rambam's day of passing fell on, when the day of the Rebbe was speaking was on Friday. So it says Friday always prepares for Shabbat. A person who prepares on Friday, he'll eat on Shabbat. So it's understood that there's a connection between the day of the passing away of the Rambam and this Torah portion, Shmot, and even more. The eating of Shabbat, which is Friday, by means of the work on the day of the Rambam, this especially will bring to the topic of going out of Egypt, which is the topic of the Rambam, will bring to the topic of Shmot, which is going out of Egypt. We'll see. By the Rambam, Roy Begili, we see how when he was in the situation of a boy Mitzrayim, the Maimonides, he went into Egypt. We see how it was that his going into Egypt, that it brought about there in a way which was relevant to his time, the whole topic of the Geulas Yisrael, the redemption of the Jewish people. His going into Egypt was a good thing. Like it says that the going of the Jews into Egypt was a good thing. This was the beginning of the redemption. How so? It was the beginning of a spiritual redemption, in a way to the darkness that was back then, and whether we're talking about the redemption simply to bring to the days of the Moshiach, like it's hinted at, the Rambam is the first letters. Rambam is it says Rabos Movsai Be'eretz Mitzrayim. Rabos Movsai Be'eretz Mitzrayim. It's a sentence in Shmos that God said, "I will make a lot of plagues and miracles." God said, "I will make a lot of plagues and miracles to increase my miracles in the land of Egypt." When Maimonides, they have to realize what was going on in those days. The Jewish people, they were pursued, they were everywhere they went. Like Christianity was ruling in Europe, and that was super, super anti-Semitic. Europe, and in the Arab countries, there was the Arab countries, they were a little bit more friendly. They were less, how do you say, overtly opposed to the Jews, but Jews had to be second-class citizens. They had to be citizens, and wanted to desperately to convert all the Jews to their religion. Christianity wanted to, because the Jews, as long as there's one Jew, it's a direct proof that their religion is not true. That the existence of the Jewish people is a proof that Christianity is wrong, because they say that came along this person and he's the Messiah and he's going to help the world and everybody is accepting him, and the Jews said, "What are you talking about? He's not the Messiah. There's no qualifications of the Messiah. What are you talking about?" Right. He's not. So as long as there's even one Jew, but nevertheless, it doesn't make any difference. The Jews were basically pursued actively all over the world. Absolutely nothing like now. Now in America, the people hold up a swastika sign or something like that, and everybody goes berserk, right? The Anti-Defamation League makes another $1 million with donations because of this. It's absolutely nothing. Back then, the situation to be a Jew back then was absolutely nothing compared to be the danger now. Now the problem is an internal problem. It's ignorance. Ignorance. Back then there was very few, if any, such a thing as an ignorant Jew. A Jew didn't believe in Torah. There was no such thing in the world. Now in our world, there's a lot of Jews that simply don't know what it means to be a Jew. No idea whatsoever. Yesterday, I put tefillin on a person like that. A fellow from Australia had absolutely no idea. Knew he was Jewish. His mother told him he was Jewish. When he was in Egypt, when Maimonides was in Egypt, as he composed he wrote his book, Mishnah Torah, 14 huge volumes of all of the laws of the Torah. He gathered together all the laws of the Torah Shabbal Peh, all the laws of the Talmud. Shezeh Pa'al Geula, this is a step in the redemption of Matzav HaChoshech and the darkness of exile. Kamosh Ketuv Rambam, like the Rambam wrote in his beginning. Why did the Rambam write this book? Because he writes that the Jewish people, the reason is, Shechibra Chibru, it says, in order that Lishlo et Helem v'Hester, in order to negate the darkness and confusion that was involved in learning the Torah. Sha'otama Pirushim, those explanations of laws and answers, Nitkashu b'yameinu, have become very difficult. Ve'en mevin inyanim, people don't understand things properly. Elama'at mispar, only a few. Ve'en surich lomar, and it goes without saying, the Talmud itself. Okay, what is Judaism? Judaism, God gave the Torah, and the Torah has to be explained. It has to be explained from the beginning. There was always Moses and all of the elders, and they explained the Torah. When the Jews were in Israel, there was not such a big problem because a Jew would make a mistake. He would do something wrong on Shabbat, and someone would see him and say, you can't do that. Let's go to the court. He'll tell you. So all the Jewish people were there together, and one would correct, each person would correct the other. And the rabbis were there, and they knew all the laws. The rabbis would also discuss with one another. So all the rabbis knew all the laws. But as soon as the temple was destroyed, especially the second temple, when the second temple was destroyed, and the Jews got scattered all over the world, so then things started to become confused, and they had to write down what was called the oral Torah. Up to then, the Talmud and the ideas of the Talmud and the Mishnah, they weren't written down. So they started writing them down. But those also became very difficult to understand, and the Jews became more and more scattered around. And as they did, there was more and more ignorance in the world until it came to the Rambam. The Rambam, he lived like about 1,000 years, approximately 1,000 years after the destruction of the temple. So in that course of that 1,000 years, there became a lot of confusion, a lot of darkness in the Jewish people. People, they believed in God, but they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what the law. So Rambam said, therefore I'm standing up and I'm writing all of the laws of the Torah. All the laws of the Torah, everything. Laws which are not relevant now, they'll only be relevant in the days of the Mashiach. Laws that even in the days of the Mashiach won't be relevant. Right? The days of impurity and things like that, when it says that there won't be any impurity in the world. Details and details of laws. And finally, in the end, he talks about Mashiach and how the whole thing brings to Mashiach. And if you don't believe in Mashiach, you don't believe in any of the laws I said before. Right? He says, therefore, says the Rambam, I saw to write this book that the laws will be clear and it'll be short, so that the oral Torah will be arranged in everybody's mouth. And that's what the Rebbe said, that we should learn the Rambam. In Chabad, we learn Rambam every day. Every day. We try to finish it once a year. V'kach nasa, this is what it was done, that the Rambam, the book of the Rambam, of Maimonides, nasa mora derech, it became a guiding light to the Jewish people in all of the generations, beginning with the Jewish people that were in Egypt in the generation of the Maimonides. And there it spread out the laws to all sorts of different places in the world, like it's known in the letters of the Rambam, until the Jewish people in the generations which were after that, including Begam, also by means of this, many books that were written with the Shulchan Aruch that was written with 500 years later after the Rambam, whatever it is, 500. You said 400 years. This is, all of them are based on the Rambam. The Rambam was the first one that to list all the laws of the Torah in an accurate way. In an accurate way. There are people that disagree with the Rambam. There were people that were, let's say, of the Rambam status, the Ran and the Rif, the Ravad afterwards. There were people, and they brought places from the Torah that asked questions on the Maimonides. And a lot of these questions are answered by Yosef Cairo. He was the one that wrote the Shulchan Aruch. In other words, Maimonides brought about that even in the time of the nighttime, like we said, to include the nighttime, even in the nighttime, and the Jewish people were in darkness in Egypt. Egypt was Meitzar Gabul. The whole word Egypt means limitation. Tehi will be Yetzias Mitzrayim, that they could go out of Egypt. They could go out of the redemption. It told the Jewish people, first of all, that there was going to be a redemption. And it was the first book and the only book to this day that gives the qualifications, the criteria for Mashiach. The necessity to believe in Mashiach, what the Mashiach is going to do, and who to look for. Criteria for Mashiach. Good. But Dugmas, this is like Rabbeinu HaKodesh, something like what the Rebbe Yehuda HaNasi did when he wrote the Mishnayos, shortly after the temple was destroyed. The second temple. Today, in order, so the Torah, the oral Torah should not be forgotten from the Jewish people. The explanation of the Torah should not be forgotten. Like it says in the beginning, when do you begin reading the Shema? Right? In the evening. That's what we said. We remember going out of Egypt in evening. That's what we talked about when we talked about that first chapter of Brachot. And even more, in addition to the fact that we mentioned going out of Egypt in the nighttime, and in the time of exile, we're talking about going out of exile and transforming the exile. In addition to that, the Rambam actually brought out, Paul the Rambam Gam at the end of the Kol Yomecha Yechal Avitam Yashim Mashiach. He brought about that it was possible that all of the days of your life you could work to bring to the Mashiach. He would do it like it's known, Sefer Rambam, that the book of the Maimonides, Kolel et Kol Halachot Torah, it includes all of the laws of the Torah, even laws which are relevant to the Holy Temple, when the temple was, and also laws of the days of the Mashiach at the end of his book. Shamoras, this indicates that to the Jewish people, at the halachos, all of the laws which are connected to the arrival of Mashiach. When Mashiach comes, we'll know what to do. There's going to be a holy temple. All the laws will come back. The laws of impurity, the laws of the sacrifices, and how we have to prepare for this. And how and what's the order, how Mashiach will come and what he's going to do. And we can also add on another interesting thing. The Rambam lived 70 years. Now, remember, we talked about before 70 years that Rebbe Eliezer ben Azariah said, I am like 70 years old. And the Rebbe said that 70 represents a level of completeness in perfecting your 7 emotional traits. 70 says that, like it says in the Tehillah in Psalms, the days of man's life are 70 years. This indicates that there was revealed by him a complete connection to God and the world. Hari Anika ben Shivim Shana, like that was what Eliezer ben Azariah said, I am like 70 years. And this is what brought about, like we learned in that Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah said, now I can bring up, now I'm 70 years old, now I can bring about going out of Egypt in any situation, in the daytime, in the nighttime, and to bring to the days of the Mashiach. Actually, this is including and regarding to Rebbe Eliezer ben Azariah, like we said, that God helps, and he's the son of God helping. Hashem helps us to do these things. So we see that Maimonides in Egypt, he was the one that really began this fervor and clarity about Mashiach, and the necessity and the ability to think about Mashiach constantly, do everything possible to bring Mashiach, and to actually bring Mashiach. That's what the Rambam did when he wrote his book. I hope you do as a Kohen, like it says that the day with the passing away of a holy person, that all of the deeds and his Torah and all of his service that he did all of his life, that goes up, it elevates. The Zem Meir, this shines and reveals below, and it causes salvation in the world. A Jewish person, like we said so many times before, God put the world into the hands of man. And when there's people that get it right, So these people become like a sort of human holy temple, and they reveal godliness in the world. They're called tzaddikim. A tzaddik is a person that's totally connected to the Creator, and he does what the Creator wants to improve this world, to make this physical world a better place. That's a tzaddik. And he does it according to the Torah, of course. The Rambam was a person like this. So it says the day that he passed away, it says that this does what people are supposed to do. It brings blessing into the world. It brings salvation in the world. So it's understood that the day of the 20th day of Tevet, which is the day of the passing away of the Maimonides, is found revealed all of the deeds and all of his Torah and all of his service of the Rambam of Maimonides, the Chibur Sefer, when he composed, we wrote this book, Mishnah Torah, in the land of Egypt, and all of the other things that the Rambam did in the course of his 70 years of life. This Pol Yeshua's B'Kerav Oretz, this brings about salvation. It brings about, revelation of meaning and blessing in the lowest places of the world, even in Egypt. Egypt means limitations and boundaries, in a way that this makes a More Nevuchim. Another one of his books that he wrote was what they call it the guide to the so, excuse me. So what has happened? Sorry, I'm sorry. Just all right. Yeah, just one moment. One moment. Press the wrong button over here. Here we go. I don't know how I did that. Okay, let's. Good. All right. 1 second. Excuse me. It just got disconnected somehow. I don't know how that happened. Here we go. Wow, everybody just got. We had all these. I don't know what I did. Oh yeah. What's going on here? What happened? I did something wrong. I pressed some sort of wrong button. Dovey, 1 minute. What's happening over here? What is going on? Ay. Huh. There we go. Oh, this is awful. 1 minute here. All of a sudden, something went wrong over here. I don't know what to do. All right, here, let's see, screen sharing. W, I don't know. Something happened over here. When you came in, suddenly the whole thing closed off.
No problem, Rabbi. Take your time.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. 1 second. No, something is wrong here. The whole thing is wrong. It's just not working. This is so frustrating. I don't know how to do this. All right. I don't know what's going on over here. Something, all of a sudden, everything is just going haywire. I'm ending the meeting. I'm ending.